One of the things that I realized as a follower of Christ is that when you are in private, you're more susceptible to sin. Or I should say, when you think you're in private, you're more susceptible to sin. Because all it takes for you to not fall into lust or fall into a certain temptation is a person walking in the room that you don't feel comfortable doing that in front of. And then it's like your desires just miraculously change. And the reason why that happens is because you think that nobody's watching. Self-consciously, your mind doesn't think that somebody's watching. But when you get to the point where you built that relationship with God, to the point where you know he's there, it's like it's almost impossible to give into that sin. And if you realize there's only one story in the Bible that specifically points out someone actually running from lust, and that's the story of Joseph when he ran from Potiphar's wife. And we see that Joseph knew that God was watching, because he said, how could I do this against God? How could I sin against God? Because he knew that God was with him in that moment. And we see that when other people fell in the Bible, that they forgot that God was there. Because a person like David, after God's own heart, got distracted. He stopped focusing on what God called him to do, and that is why he fell into temptation. So if you want to start living for God the same way, no matter if you're in private or public, you have to know that God is with you and feel that he's there. This personally happened in my life when I would listen to secular music around certain friends or by myself. But I knew I couldn't listen to that music around certain, family members and things like that. And so as I got closer to God, that same conviction carried with me when I was alone. It's like I couldn't even think about the thought of turning on secular music because I get a conviction in my heart. So if you know you do certain sins in private, but you don't do them in public, then the problem is God doesn't feel real enough to you. And your only real motive to turn away from sin is to look good in front of people. So in order for God to start feeling real to you, you have to start doing what he's calling you to do, even when nobody's watching. This is not just overcoming temptation, but this is being a servant. This is loving others as Christ loved you. And that's why Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments, because that's what he's calling us to do. That's when you'll start getting convicted to, feed the homeless when nobody's watching. That's when you'll get convicted to serve someone when nobody's watching, or love people even though you have anger in your heart when nobody's watching. The more that you start to do in private for him, the more that you'll grow in love for him, so that you can resist temptation and actually live like someone's always watching you. So start growing that relationship with him, start growing that love for him, and that's how you're going to be able to overcome the temptation and start being the man of God that God has called you to be. So y'all stay blessed.